Water is the key to being reborn.
This is the game that I like.
It is considered redemptive in nature.
I like this game. This is the game for me.
So many games have come out in 2022. Elden Ring, Triangle Strategy, and recently, physically, Sifu. And I may have to go ahead and call it. This may just be my game of the year. When I give a good, hard look at Sifu, I see all the things I loved in previous beat-em-up games that could have paved the way for the genre's cornerstone transition into 3D. Games like God Hand or The Bouncer, but Sifu at its core holds a lot of fundamentals that every beat-em-up should have, and that's why I don't want this game to be overlooked, like the games before it. The combat of Sifu is rather complex, with a variety of moves at your disposal, requiring specific actions to be taken before they can be successfully performed. The game isn't going to hold your hand. Most of its introduction comes in the opening segment of the game, followed by a very brief tutorial of skills that act as the main structure of the game: parrying, dodging, sweeping, and focus attacks. But it's utilizing skillful timing and movement that allows these abilities to be performed, and that is the basic foundation of Sifu. Sifu is essentially one giant love letter to the kung fu movies a lot of us grew up with, paying homage to a lot of scenes and tropes prevalent throughout those films. While the combat reflects those films and their complexity in performing the martial arts, Sifu in its entirety presents itself rather simply, and I think this is the biggest importance. The combat perspective is complex, but the game as a whole is rather straightforward. When you jump into Sifu, you shouldn't expect dialogue-heavy cutscenes, getting new items that allow for new moves and fighting styles, or even a rich plot. Sifu needs only to keep you engaged with its combat to carry you through the story, much like the old kung fu movies used to do. Any exposition is given to you by your main character and whoever he or she is talking to. It's a brief exchange of a sentence or two, followed by engaging in combat. And that's all you need to know. You know what involvement this person has to the plot, start punching them.
You were not supposed to be part of tonight's game.
Let's end this quickly.
And really, that's the only thing Sifu will demand of you. It doesn't want you to beat time trials, do frame-perfect platforming, or anything extra to attempt to stretch out its playtime. No, the only thing Sifu wants from you is to understand its style of combat. It's a simple request, but a taxing feat. Because while Sifu is simple, its difficulty is legendary. Any failure to go with the flow of combat will be met with swift punishment. But like most things, practice makes perfect. I guess I should mention Sifu does have a unique mechanic carefully placed into its build, one that cements its difficulty in a heavy exchange. Taking too much damage causes your character to die, but thanks to the talismans left to you by your father, you're able to resurrect yourself. The toll is that it takes a year off your life, then 2 years, then 3, and so on. The talismans can only resurrect you so much and will eventually start to break. When this happens, your age brings about experience, and with experience comes strength at the cost of vitality. So the older you become, the stronger you are, but the easier you fall. This mechanic only stresses the importance of learning combat, because each failure can lead to your character's eventual permanent demise, and with this the skills you've unlocked, unless of course you've permanently unlocked them by paying 5 times the amount in experience points. It's the meticulous effort put into Sifu's gameplay that really makes the combat the focus itself. And honestly, the combat and its complexity is what really makes the game shine. Staying alive comes from practicing what the tutorial showed you. Sifu will usually end up being one against many, so you'll have to know when to avoid strikes, when to parry, when to sweep foes off their feet to reduce the crowd, and when to push someone back to help give yourself some space. Performing all these feats well rewards you with experience and a score which can be applied for bonuses, and those stick with you throughout your run. You'll also be gifted with a little health for each foe you successfully take down, so choosing your battles can be important, but nothing will compare to the thrill of going on a spree of taking down everyone you meet, and saving your focus attacks will be your upper hand in combat as well as against bosses. But the challengers you face can show just as much skill as you possess, and one wrong move can spell disaster. Taking year after year off your life will see you reconsidering your strategy over and over again. And this is another big appeal of Sifu. While you may feel great from making it past one of the 5 bosses that have their own unique skill sets, you'll probably find yourself replaying the same level to do a better job and reap the benefits of challenging the next boss with a little more youth at your disposal. Replaying the levels and doing better at them permanently locks in the age you are for the next stage in your run, unless you beat the previous stage at an even earlier age or not losing any years at all. It's a difficult task, but one that feels so rewarding once you further understand each level and how to tackle it, literally and figuratively. It's a reward that feels deserved as no enemy you face pulls their punches, and these foes know the value of quantity and quality, so unlock those valuable skills and get those perks at every dragon statue you find. There are collectibles in each stage of Sifu that mostly serve to flesh out some of the story, as well as a few items that help you bypass a lot of the areas in each stage. While that does work as an act of mercy for each stage and the feat of beating it at an earlier age, it's hard to resist the temptation of just blowing through the whole level again. But even this act of mercy does have a fine of not giving you all the dragon shrines you may have found when going through the entire level. So keep that in mind. I can't tell you how many times I played through the club stage and felt the absolute rush of taking on so many opponents at once. I do have to apologize to this lady right here. She's always so unassuming and the first to go. The game knows that too. It knows she's the one you're going to target. She can always take a hit, and I do feel bad, but you shouldn't have been here when I was here. I'm sorry. Sifu's constant barrage of opponent after opponent really keeps you engaged throughout each stage, and it always feels pretty fresh given the variety of foes you face and the fighting styles they carry with them. Also, just a plus here, but a lot of the music in Sifu is segmented, meaning that this high energy part of this club beat won't start up until you throw your first punch. And honestly, more games need to implement this. It was fantastic in Streets of Rage 4, and it's fantastic here, especially since the music is so good. Blending those oriental sounds and mixing them with a lot of deep bassy instrumentals and high beat tunes. The boss Sean's battle theme is a really good one to note here, but it's a shame you can't really get into it since, fighting against Sean, who is a constant threat. And as this is a story mostly centered around vengeance, it goes without saying that you should always be able to hit your opponent while they're in the middle of their monologue. It is a must for me. It started with River City Ransom, and it should continue on. Yeah, I know you're trying to test my skill and stuff, but seriously, I'm on the path of revenge and I will take a cheap shot at you. I do not care. Sifu is undeniably short, ranging to about 3 to 4 hours if you know what you're doing. And while that may seem small, understand that Sifu will beat you again and again and again. And that's okay. It's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be frustrating. It's using that frustration to try and try again that brings out the most reward for you. The thrill of getting further and further and seeing how much better you've gotten over time is a reward that I feel few games ever really capture. Seriously, beating this game and then immediately going back to the first boss really showed me how much I had started to learn about this game, how much I really understood about the mechanics of Sifu, and in knowing that, how much it made me want to start all over again. Maybe it's not totally accurate to call Sifu a beat 'em up. Maybe it is, but it can't be denied that Slowclap really knew what they were doing in terms of combat. And in doing so, they really established a format that any game that calls itself a beat 'em up should try to strive to live up to. And it goes without saying that Sifu has a truly beautiful art style, showcasing some of the coolest visuals seen in recent years. It's got a true to form sense of narrative taken from kung fu films of old, with story more told through fists than endless dialogue. Sifu is something to truly be appreciated, and unless something makes this much of an impact on me, this will definitely be the game of the year for me. I hope you take some time to enjoy it too. Thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for listening to me gush about Sifu for a long time. I have been eagerly awaiting this game to drop on consoles, and I seriously feel it's worth the wait. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Like the video if you like the video, and consider subscribing if you're new. Stay safe and keep it practical.